to whitewash his stepsister. On the night of their engagement, my fiancé got his best buddy drunk and sent him to my bed. That night, the scandalous photos of Huan Nanshuan and me topped the trending searches. Everyone in Hong Kong was waiting for me to make excuses, begging Xie Shihan for forgiveness. After all, I was known for being promiscuous and desperately clinging to the aloof and noble Xie Shihan. I dialed Xie Shihan's number. "Do you hate me that much?" Xie Shihan chuckled coldly. "As always, you're the one who stole the engagement between Xinran and me. Xinran cried last night. Your scandalous photos will bring a smile to her face." This was the 9th time he had disciplined me for Lin Xinran, but he didn't know that the marriage certificate he had desperately brought to my due. Our back then was torn to shreds by Lin Xinran. I spent 3 days and nights piecing it back together. But now, I casually tossed the marriage certificate into the trash. As you wish. Driving all the way. The navigation system was constantly busy. It automatically connected. And the curses of righteous netizens flooded my ears. So-called Miss Lin family. Ha. Just a shameless slut. 3,000 family rules raised someone like you. Aren't you ashamed? Still daring to cling to Mr. Xia. I hung up one call after another, biting my lower lip until it bled. It hurt. But not as much as the coldness in my heart. Everyone in Hong Kong knew that Lin Jingyue was vengeful and crazy. But later, Xie Shihan appeared. After I accepted the engagement, the Xie family recognized him, and the down-and-out stray dog became a noble young master. I learned to behave. Smoothing out all my thorns, wearing the most dignified dresses, smiling at the gentlest angle, just hoping that when standing next to him, I could hear people praise. A match made in heaven. The rear of the car was hit, and I lost control, crashing straight into the green belt. A sudden drop in my abdomen, a twisting pain. I clutched my stomach, cold sweat instantly soaking my back. Xie Shihan got out of the car in a fluster and walked towards me. In the passenger seat, Lin Xinran leaned back, looking at me with a smile. Lin Xinran suddenly exclaimed, "Oh dear," and held out her well-manicured hand. "Jihan, let's go. I have a nail appointment." She glanced at me, giggling softly. "Sister is putting on a show. And you actually believe it." Xie Zihan's hand, which had just reached the car door, stopped. He looked at me, and that flicker in his eyes was gone, replaced by the familiar disgust. The accelerator was slammed, and the car brushed past me. Lin Xinran stuck her hand out of the car window. A flick of a fingertip. A point of scarlet cigarette ash drew an arc, landing by my car. On the ground, leaking gasoline reflected the light. I used all my strength to kick open the car door and lunged out. A wave of heat slammed into me from behind. Excruciating pain. Darkness engulfing everything. When I opened my eyes again, everything was a stark white. The smell of disinfectant pungent. The nurse's movements were rough as she changed my dressing. She curled her lip and said, "No surprise that no one wants to sign for you, considering you're universally disliked. A major hemorrhage, and no one willing to come." My throat was parched. "My baby." The nurse paused, her tone softening. "You lost it. If you'd been brought in sooner, maybe we could have saved it." Instinctively, I dialed Xie Zihan's number, but as I realized what I was doing and was about to hang up, it connected. The background was noisy, filled with the sounds of men and women laughing and joking. Hey, seriously, Lin Jingyue is really something. She seems so aloof, but who knew she was so hot? Jihan has trained her into a well-behaved girl these past few years. Once Jihan successfully breaks off his engagement, they'll take her for a spin. Blood rushed to my head instantly, and I trembled all over. Just then, Xie Zihan's angry voice came from the other end of the phone. "Who told you to touch my phone?" The next second, the call disconnected. The screen went dark, then lit up again. A new message. From Chin Xian, Xia Zihan's assistant. Miss Lin, Mr. Xia is very busy. If you need anything, contact me first, and I'll pass it on. You are prohibited from disturbing Mr. Xia privately. I stared at it for a long time. Suddenly, I started laughing until my shoulders shook, pulling at the wound in my lower abdomen, causing me to curl up in pain. 3 years as an engaged couple, and every time I need to find him, I have to get approval from his assistant, Lin Jingyue. As radiant as a rose. How did you let your life become like this? I looked at the ceiling, silently shedding tears, crying until I fell asleep. Until late at night, the hospital room door was kicked open violently. Xia Zihan stood at the door. The man who was always refined and elegant now completely out of control. He rushed over in a few strides and grabbed my wrist. His grip was so tight, it felt like he was going to crush my bones. What happened to the child? He roared hoarsely. I always used protection. Lin Jingyue. Where did you get the bastard? I lifted my eyelids and looked at the face I had loved for so many years. It's strange. It didn't hurt to the point of suffocation like it used to. Everyone in Hong Kong knew that the Xia family's young master was as gentle as jade. A perfect gentleman. Only she hated me, refusing to give me even a sliver of tenderness. My voice was soft. The night Lin Xinran announced her relationship. You were drunk and didn't use protection. That night he was extremely violent, forcing me into one humiliating position after another. Seeing my emotions rising and the bed stained with blood, the man's chest clearly heaved. It's gone. Don't be like your mother. That shameless woman used her wound to force her way in and made Xinran an illegitimate child. You've bullied Xinran since you were little. Why can't you and your mother just leave her alone? He slammed the door and left. I pulled out the 4-tube and reached for the phone on the bedside table. I dialed my grandfather's number. Grandpa, I want to go back to Beijing. He sounded overjoyed on the other end of the phone. You've finally come to your senses. Nansun is also in Hong Kong. He can take you north to get married. Xia Zihan has a slight limp, but no one knows that Xia Zihan's leg was broken for me. When I was 18, I was kidnapped. My father was busy celebrating Lin Xinran's birthday and refused to pay the ransom. I was tortured and beaten. After escaping, Xia Zihan hid me in a cellar. Don't make a sound, he said. The kidnappers beat him, demanding to know where I was. He had his ribs broken. 1, 2, 3, and then his calf. He never uttered a single word. Until dawn, when the kidnappers were caught. He crawled into the cellar. His face as pale as paper, but he smiled at me. It's okay now. The morning light shone in, illuminating his blood-stained face. At that moment, I decided he was the one for me. For life. I would follow him through thick and thin. I was overjoyed when I found out about the engagement between him and our family. I painstakingly helped him find his family and helped him return to the Xia family. But I never expected that he would fall in love with Lin Xinran and blame me for repaying kindness with evil. I stayed in the hospital alone for a week. During that time, Xia Zihan and Lin Xinran made high-profile appearances at various events. The trending searches were all flattering words about them being a golden couple. And everyone blamed me for being a killjoy. I repeatedly looked at hundreds of photos. My heart didn't hurt. It was just numb with cold. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I didn't expect Xia Zihan to come. He leaned against the car, and when he saw me, he immediately put out his cigarette, waved away the smoke around him, and casually opened the back door. I paused for a moment, didn't put on airs, bent over and got into the car. Looking past the center console, I saw a sticker on the passenger seat that read, Baby Fairy's exclusive seat. He sat in the driver's seat, sat up straight, and waited for a while, but he didn't get the chance for me to feign trying to help him buckle his seatbelt and kiss him like I always did. He finally grew impatient, turning his head to the side with a furrowed brow. Lin Jingyue. Haven't you made enough of a scene? It was just a scare. Yet you insisted on lying in the hospital for a week. Who are you putting on this act for now? It will only make me despise you more. I stared straight ahead, twisting the cup in my hand. Rest assured. Your wish will be granted. No hysterical crying. No arguing. Like a stagnant pool of dead water. Seeing my extremely indifferent expression, Xie Shihan frowned slightly, leaning in to take the thermos from my hand. Just then, his phone vibrated. The screen lit up. The name Shinran flashing. The corners of his mouth instantly turned up. A tenderness I had never seen before. Hanging up the phone, the frost returned to his eyes when he looked at me. He ordered, "Get out of the car. Chen Xian will take you back." He didn't even give me a chance to react. Directly pushing me out, Chen Xian glanced at me in the rearview mirror, a hint of malice curling at the corners of his mouth. He slammed on the gas, followed by a hard brake. I was thrown from side to side, old and new injuries twisting together in pain. When we arrived at the villa, I raised my hand and slapped Chen Xian hard across the face. I shook my numb hand and sneered. An unfaithful dog dares to torment me. Chen Xian's face flushed red, anger rising in his eyes. Even if I am Miss Xinran's lackey, CEO Xia will stand up for me. Late at night, a torrential rain suddenly arrived. I was awakened by Xie Zihan's exclusive ringtone. I stared at the name flashing on the screen for a few seconds, and finally answered. Xie Zihan's voice was slurred, heavy with drunkenness. "Wife, can you come pick me up and take me home?" The word home was like a thin needle, suddenly piercing the softest part of my heart. Against my better judgment, I heard myself say, "Send me the address." I grabbed the car keys and drove through the city in the pouring rain. My heart was beating fast. I couldn't explain why. Perhaps a trace of pathetic fantasy still remained. Arriving at the top club, I was about to push open the door of the private room. A burst of laughter erupted from inside. "Zihanj, I'm impressed. Really impressed. I knew it. With one phone call from you, that Lin Jingyue would crawl over like a dog. But seriously, she's really cheap." Xie Zihan's voice sounded, slurred with drunkenness. If Shinran didn't happen to like Taoxi's pink diamond jewelry set, I wouldn't bother playing this boring game with you guys. I lowered my head, looking at my soaked skirt, still dripping water. Forget it. I'm already here. One last time. I'll send him home. Just consider it a complete end to these 3 years of relationship. I took a slow breath and pushed open the door. Lin Shinran was clinging to Xie Shihan, her face flushed, both consumed by desire, kissing passionately. As his fiancé arrived, everyone unreservedly cheered for a wet kiss. One can imagine how much Xie Shihan had spoiled her. But it doesn't matter. After I leave, they can be together openly. What I need to do now is to handle the shares first. As expected, I developed a fever at night. In my days, I dreamed of the Xie Shihan from the past. Back then, he was still a poor guy. He was treated like a dog just to buy me a birthday gift. He was beaten black and blue in the underground boxing ring just to buy me a palm-sized cake. Unfortunately, it didn't make it to me in time. And it was crushed all over the ground by a car. Such a strong and tough person didn't even groan when his leg was broken. But he teared up, holding the cake crumbs. Because he missed the first birthday wish at midnight, I wiped away his tears and comforted him. Xie Shihan said he didn't want his lover to be disappointed in the slightest. I was startled awake by the sweet dream, and looking at the city swallowed by the rainstorm. I couldn't help but wonder, How did Xie Shihan and I end up like this today? Because of Lin Xinran. Or because of that incident. The next morning, I made a call to Huinanjuan. There was a loud crash on the other end of the line, with faint screams. Are you busy? The other side went silent instantly, and Huinanjuan apologized to me. Sorry. I was busy cleaning up and teaching some ignorant folks a lesson. It was a bit sudden. I lowered my eyes and asked, when are you coming to pick me up? The man's frivolous teasing came from the other end. So eager. What? Are you really planning to break up with him? I said a firm yes. There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then he suddenly said seriously, 3 days later. No. Tomorrow. Your brother will come pick you up in person. Time was a bit tight. So I rushed to the company to get my personal seal. I had shamelessly begged for an office next to Xie Zihan's. Chen Xian thought I was here to find Xie Zihan, so he immediately took a step across, blocking the door. He forced a fake smile. Miss Lin, have you forgotten Mr. Xie's instructions? Lin Jingyue and dogs are not allowed inside. I didn't stop walking, only glancing at him indifferently. Chen Xian didn't move, crossing his arms and raising an eyebrow. Haven't you had enough of last night's lesson? My throat suddenly itched, and I coughed violently. I coughed until tears came out. And my vision went black. Tired of dealing with it, I spoke bluntly. I'm leaving Hong Kong to make room for Lin Xinran. Are you sure you want to stop me? As soon as I finished speaking, Xie Shihan happened to walk out of the office. Leaving? Where are you going? Chen Xian spoke first. Miss Lin is acting up again, claiming she's going to leave you. Xie Shihan opened his mouth, seeming to want to keep me, but when his gaze fell on my calm, unwavering eyes, that flicker died down. He only said, don't come crawling back after you're gone. Okay. I turned to leave. But Xie Shihan hooked my waist and dragged me into the office. Transfer the shares you have to Xinran. I gritted my teeth. Why? The hand on my waist tightened, the threat becoming deeper, as if he was competing with me. I'm not discussing it with you. It's an order. When we made the engagement, we were deeply in love. My eyes sparkled as I looked at him, playfully saying I would repay his life-saving grace with 3 things. He smiled and ruffled my hair back then. He mentioned the first thing. Lin Jingyue, I want you to be happy forever. For the second thing, his ears turned slightly red. And he said in a low voice, I beg you, grow old with me. My throat tightened. Are you doing this on purpose? Using my most sincere promise from back then to cut out my heart. Xie Zihan's tone was tinged with helplessness. Jingyue, you're about to be the young mistress of the Xie family. She needs these more than you do. Why do you have to compete with her? I laughed, but tears fell unexpectedly. Xie Zihan, I would give them away for free rather than let that mistress bastard get them. Lin Xinran's parents were having an affair in my mother's hospital room, which angered her to death. The veins on Xie Zihan's forehead bulged, and he pushed me into the secret room. I trembled all over, instantly collapsing. I threw myself at the door, frantically pounding on the heavy steel door. The sound echoed in the small space, stirring up more fear, darkness, suffocation, despair. Xie Zihan, let me out. I'm begging you. I collapsed to the ground, incoherently crying and begging. Xie Zihan sat upright, watching me calmly as a document was pushed over. Good girl. Sign it. My hand trembled as I picked up the pen. Do you know these are my mother's keepsakes? I know. Xie Zihan pursed his lips and shook his head. I'm not asking you to fulfill my love with Xinran, but at least give her some compensation. I stared into his eyes and suddenly laughed. Don't worry. They'll definitely compensate her well. Xia Jihan didn't understand the meaning behind my words, tidied my messy hair, and gave me one last look. Then go through the transfer process yourself. I staggered out of the Xia Corporation building and dialed the phone number of Xia Zihan's archenemy. Haven't you always wanted to step on Xia Jihan? I'll give you the chance. He will become that homeless stray dog again, with nothing to his name. In the early morning, I boarded Huan Nangxin's helicopter, all alone. At the same time, Xia Jihan was chairing an important merger and acquisition meeting. Feeling a sudden unease, he frequently checked his personal phone, but there was no message from me. Instead, he saw trending searches all over the screen. Beijing heiress and real estate tycoon officially announced their marriage. Immediately after, Chen Xian rushed in, his face pale. President Xia, something bad has happened. Mainland tycoons have simultaneously announced their withdrawal of investment. Our funding chain is broken. Xia Jihan stood up abruptly, loosening his tie with a jerk. Impossible. He grabbed his phone, his fingers turning white from the force, and dialed the investor's number. Busy tone. He dialed the next one. This time it went through. The other party's tone was indifferent. President Xia, no need for further cooperation. President Wang, we've been cooperating for many years. You've offended someone you shouldn't have. The other party interrupted and hung up directly. Xia Zihan's face was livid as he made one call after another. Finally, he got a name. Huan Nanxuan. Chen Xian exclaimed. Huan Nanxuan. Isn't he just a good-for-nothing second generation from the mainland? 3 years ago, he came to Hong Kong and has always been like a brother to you. How could he? He stopped abruptly at this point. Half a month ago, Xia Jihan got Huan Nanxuan drunk and sent him to my bed. The conference room was deathly silent. All the senior executives were pale, looking at the man in the main seat who had always been so strategic and in control. President Xia. How could you offend the god of wealth from the mainland for personal matters? Exactly. I think President Xia is no longer suitable to lead the Xia Corporation. Xia Jihan squeezed his phone tightly, his knuckles cracking. The phone vibrated again. It was a series of contract termination notices. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead, and a familiar, sharp pain shot through his stomach. Medicine, he gritted his teeth, his face pale. Chen Xian hurriedly searched, but found nothing. My careful nursing had kept Xia Zihan's severe stomach problems in check. Xia Jihan held onto the desk, gasping for breath. Bring in the stomach-nourishing porridge that Lin Jingyue sends. Chen Xian froze, cold sweat beading on his forehead. President Xia. Miss Lin hasn't sent it in a long time. Xia Jihan paused. Memories surged. Every morning at 5 o'clock, Lin Jingyue would get up to cook porridge, delivering it to his office door on time. He found it annoying and meddlesome. Countless times, in front of everyone, he dumped the still-warm porridge into the trash can. He coldly warned, Lin Jingyue, don't do these unnecessary things. She would always smile and complain. I cooked it for a long time. I want next time. But the next day, the thermos would still appear on time. But now, it really wasn't appearing anymore. The stomach pain intensified, accompanied by an empty sense of panic. Call Lin Jingyue. Xia Zihan's voice was hoarse. Tell her I'm having an attack, and ask her to come be with me. Chen Xian hesitated. President Xia, should I notify Miss Xinran instead? Xia Jihan suddenly raised his eyes, his gaze terrifying. Chen Xian, just because I haven't pursued your mistreatment of Jingyue doesn't mean you can control me. Chen Xian shivered in fright and quickly dialed, only to find that he had been blacklisted. Xia Jihan dialed himself, but heard only a busy signal. He opened WeChat and found the avatar he had set to Do Not Disturb. His fingers trembled as he typed. Stop it. He clicked send. An eye-searing red exclamation point instantly popped up. The phone was violently thrown to the ground, the screen shattering. Just then, the office door was pushed open. Lin Shinran, wearing a brand new haute couture dress and exquisite makeup, giggled as she threw herself at him. Jihan Gij, do you think my new dress is pretty? It goes perfectly with the pink diamonds Taozi gave me. Oh, and I saw a new crocodile skin bag. A global limited edition Shinran. Xia Jihan interrupted her, his voice weary. I'm very busy right now. Please go back. Lin Xinran's smile froze, and she pouted. No, I want to buy it now. You promised you'd give me anything I want. I said. I'm busy. Xia Jihan suddenly raised his voice, filled with suppressed anxiety and anger. Lin Shinran was startled, and her eyes instantly turned red. Are you yelling at me? You said you would spoil me for the rest of your life. The office door was pushed open again. The secretary couldn't stop him, and Xia Jihan's nemesis, Zhao Ting, swaggered in. He casually tossed a document in front of Xia Jihan. Zhao Ting grinned, his smile arrogant and triumphant. President Xia, step aside. Unlike Xia Jihan's gentle composure, Quan Nanchuan was more like a wolf grown in the wilderness, his wildness hidden beneath a cynical smile. Grandpa once said, Quan Nanchuan is a wild wolf. Though you cannot tame him by marrying him, the family can protect you. Grandpa, I said. Affection is hard to come by, since sincerity cannot be exchanged for sincerity. Then it'll contribute to the family business. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, followed by a long sigh. Just be sure you've thought it through. The propellers roared, and Quan Nanchuan pushed a document in front of me. Prenuptial agreement. His tone was as casual as discussing the weather. Take a look at the clauses. I didn't bother to read it and went straight to the signature line. As the pen hovered, he suddenly pressed down on the paper. So naive. Aren't you afraid it'll take advantage of you? I brushed his hand away and signed my name neatly. Quan Nanchuan smiled. A smile that was a bit wild. Not entirely proper, but with seriousness in his eyes. I turned my head to meet his fiery gaze. Then I'll wait. He looked at me, and some emotion surged in his eyes, eventually turning into a soft laugh. He murmured something, his voice so soft that it was drowned out by the engine. What? I didn't hear clearly and instinctively leaned closer. But he backed away, leaned back in his seat, and closed his eyes to rest. Nothing. The helicopter landed at a private manor in the suburbs of Beijing. The whole garden was filled with lilacs, which were in full bloom. A vintage European-style castle came into view, and I raised my eyebrows. This doesn't seem to be the Lin family's old house. He helped me down the steps, the lines of his face appearing somewhat soft in the afternoon sun. He answered simply, honeymoon suite. My heart skipped a beat, pointing to the dazzling purple on both sides of the road. Is it a coincidence? Quan Nanchuan turned his head and looked at me deeply. No. His voice was low. It's deliberate flattery. The seriousness and heat in his eyes were undisguised. I fell into the depths of that burning gaze and suddenly understood something. Quan Nanchuan, does he like me? When you were 16, you said at a flower exhibition in Hong Kong that you would laugh in your dreams if you could live in a place full of lilacs. My heart constricted sharply. It was so long ago. I've forgotten it myself. You're investigating me. Is there a need to investigate? He leaned in, his breath tickling my ear. Lin Jingyue, I remember everything about you. Too close. I could see my own reflection in his pupils, and the undisguised heat in his eyes. Just then, the phone in my pocket rang. The caller ID was an unfamiliar number. Having just arrived in Beijing, I hadn't had time to change to a new number. It was most likely someone from Hong Kong, and I didn't want to have any contact with those people anymore. so I hung up without a second thought. But they were persistent. The ringtone continued to be noisy, particularly jarring. I realized it was Xian Nanxuan, and frowned in displeasure. Huan Nanxuan glanced at me. Need me to take care of it. His tone was calm, but a hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Suddenly, a thought of revenge welled up in me. I hooked my lips and handed him the phone. Huan Nanxuan took it and pressed the speakerphone. On the other end of the phone, Xia Zihan's hoarse, tense voice came through immediately, carrying suppressed anger and panic. Lin Jingyue, have you caused enough trouble? Come back to me immediately. President Xia. Huan Nanxuan interrupted him, his voice not loud, but with a casual sense of oppression. Looking for my fiancé. Is there something you need? Silence fell abruptly on the other end of the phone. A full 5 or 6 seconds passed. Xia Zihan's voice sounded again, laughing coldly as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. Fiancé. Lin Jingyue can't live without me. Huan Nanxuan. There should be a limit to your retaliation for what happened that night. He simply didn't believe it. He thought this was another trick I was playing to get his attention. I felt annoyed. Why did he think I would forgive him again and again? I said calmly, Xia Zihan. Remember that abandoned cellar in the west of the city? His breathing was noticeably heavier, his tone alert and a little flustered. Why are you bringing this up? Do you still remember you owe me a life-saving debt? You go back to Hong Kong, and I won't hold it against you. The wedding can be brought forward according to your request. No need. I interrupted him directly, looking at the purple flower sea ahead. I just wanted to tell you, I had someone fill that cellar in. Lin Jingyue. His voice tightened. What exactly do you want? I said calmly, Xia Zihan, we're even. You saved me once, and I used my life to love you. From now on, it's all over. What nonsense are you talking about? He raised his voice sharply. What do you mean even? Who allowed you to be even? You get back here. Huan Nangxin's handsome eyebrows furrowed suddenly, and he said coldly, Xia Zihan, looks like the bad news about the divestment hasn't taught you to respect my fiancé. On the other end of the phone, the sound of breathing suddenly intensified. Xia Zihan, losing control, smashed his phone. Huan Nanxuan handed the phone back to me. Peace and quiet now. I started preparing for the wedding. I made an appointment to try on wedding dresses. As soon as I pushed open the glass door, someone grabbed my wrist tightly from behind. Xia Zihan had come after me. His eyes were dark, as if he hadn't slept for days, and he was no longer the refined man he used to be. Lin Jingyue, he said hoarsely, you're ruthless, teaming up with outsiders to cause me so much trouble. He stared at me, his eyes bloodshot, with a stubbornness I didn't understand. Come back to me. We just had a little argument. Did you have to run away like this? I admit, this time the joke went too far. That's why you're doing these irrational things. It's okay. I don't blame you. He raised his hand to touch my face. I turned my head to avoid him. My mind quickly flashed back to all the ways had targeted me over the years. The most painful time. I almost went crazy from the humiliation. Last year at the charity gala, Lin Xinran held a champagne glass, her voice sickeningly sweet. Sister, your necklace is so pretty. Can I borrow it for a moment? I clutched the necklace pendant. The jade was icy cold. This is my mother's keepsake. Jihan Gu. Lin Xinran turned and threw herself at Xia Zihan, sounding aggrieved. That night, Xia Zihan snatched my necklace and gave it to Lin Xinran, who threw it off the high building, shattering it to pieces. Lin Xinran nestled in Xia Zihan's arms, a triumphant smile on her lips. She stood on tiptoe and leaned close to my ear, using a voice only the two of us could hear. She said softly. Sister, you and your mother will never be able to outdo me and my mother. After she finished speaking, she stepped back, her face returning to its innocent, sweet smile. Xie Jihan put his arm around her waist and turned to leave. Without even looking at me again, I rushed downstairs, clutching the jade fragments, the sharp edges digging painfully into my palm, bringing my thoughts back to the present. I laughed, my shoulders trembling. Xie Jihan, you call those things jokes? Those are all in the past. He interrupted me, his voice urgent. I know you feel wronged. I won't do those childish things anymore after we get married. No need. Xie Jihan, I'm not just acting out of spite. I really, truly, don't want you anymore. He was stunned. As if he didn't understand, his Adam's apple bobbed. Our engagement. You want to break it off. I looked the man directly in the eyes and said calmly, the person you've always wanted to marry is Lin Xinran. Now, I'm letting go. I took a step back, creating distance. I wish you happiness and fulfillment. You loathe me, and I no longer love you. The air was dead silent. Xie Jihan stared at me, as if digesting these words. Then, he suddenly laughed. He laughed so hard his shoulders shook, but his eyes were bloodshot. No longer love me, Lin Jingyue. You chased after me for 3 years. Everyone in Hong Kong knows you were madly in love with me. Now you say you don't love me anymore. His laughter was cold, laced with mockery. Is your love so cheap? Don't you think it's laughable? Looking at his almost distorted face, the last bit of emotion in my heart smoothed over. Feelings don't disappear overnight. Xie Jihan, you erased them bit by bit. For Lin Xinran, you stabbed me in the heart time and time again. I bled so much, hurt for so long. I pointed to my chest. This place has long been empty. Xie Jihan suddenly roared. You were the one who played me first. You were drunk and cried in my arms on your birthday night. You said Lin Xinran stole your father, stole your family. You wanted to take everything she had back. Lin Jingyue, you don't love me at all. You rushed to get engaged to me just because Lin Xinran liked me. You wanted to anger her, to watch her squirm. His voice gradually trembled, as if he had suffered a great grievance. I offered you my heart, and you watched me revolve around you like a fool. Feeling very proud, right? I stood there, my blood turning to ice. So, the hatred of these 3 years began with a drunken slip of the tongue. I suddenly laughed. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. He was knocked to the side, his cheek quickly swelling and turning red. I wasn't hysterical, but unusually calm. Xie Jihan, I looked at him. You really make me laugh. From a drunken word, you imagined so much, remembered it for 3 years, hated for 3 years, but the suffering I endured for you, the blood I shed for you, you forgot in an instant. He wanted to argue, but couldn't form a complete sentence. It doesn't matter anymore. I interrupted him. We are strangers now. What you think is your business. It has nothing to do with me. Just then, the phone in Xie Jihan's pocket began to vibrate frantically. He froze, not moving. The phone rang again and again. Finally, he mechanically took it out and answered. Xie's grandfather's furious roar came from the other end of the phone. You good for nothing. The company is about to collapse. And you still dare to run around. Get back here immediately and take charge. Xie Jihan's lips moved. Grandpa, I'm not running around. I came to take Jingyue home. Xie Jihan. The old man's voice trembled with anger. If you don't come back and clean up this mess, the Xie family will be ruined in your hands. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with stubbornness. Lin Jingyue, answer me. Did you ever love me in those 3 years? Rushing over, Kwon Nanchuan forcefully put his arm around my shoulder, declaring his ownership. Before I could answer, Xie Shihan was punched to the ground by Kwon Nanchuan. Idiot. He tossed out those 2 words and left with me. On the way home, Kwon Nanchuan was silently handling work, his face dark and unreadable. I tilted my head to look at him. Xie Shihan is in the past. Seeing that he didn't respond, I moved closer and inadvertently glanced at the chat on his computer. Keep suppressing them. I want the Xie family to disappear from Hong Kong City completely. Kwon Nanchuan panicked for a moment, accidentally triggering another video to pop up. In the video, several men with bruised faces were kneeling on the ground, trembling. I recognized them. The tabloid reporters in Hong Kong City who led the way in calling me promiscuous and a slut. A voice came from off-screen. President Hu ordered that we cripple the hand that holds the pen. If you write nonsense again, the voice paused. Next time it will be your tongue. Silence filled the car. Kwon Nanchuan abruptly closed the computer. He turned to look at me, a rare hint of panic in his eyes. Jing Yue. I looked into his eyes for a long time. Then, I slowly opened my mouth. Those reporters. Was that you? His Adam's apple bobbed. They shouldn't have insulted you like that. The Xie families matter. I continued to ask. Were you the one pulling the strings behind the scenes? His voice was low. They ganged up to bully you. You're a madman. I said softly. Kwon Nanchuan's body stiffened. For me, I turned my head, looking directly at him. You went south to Hong Kong City 3 years ago, and now you're ruining the Xie family. Kwon Nanchuan. Is it worth it? He spoke solemnly. I just want to protect you. I can't stand seeing you being wronged. The car drove into the manor and stopped in front of the castle. Lin Jingyue. I know there's still a knot in your heart that you haven't completely let go. I also know that my methods aren't clean. That I'm not a good person. He raised his hand, wanting to touch my face, but stopped. But this is who I am. Anyone who touches you, I'll destroy them. His eyes were as deep as the sea. You can call me a madman, a pervert, but in this life, I've set my sights on you. I looked at his eyes, which were shining. Next time before you take action, remember to tell me. I'll help you hand over the knife. In less than half a month, news came from Port City. The Lin and Xie families were on the verge of collapse, on the way to get our marriage certificate with Kwon Nanchuan. Just as the car rounded the street corner, a figure suddenly rushed out, blocking the car. Xie Zihan's face was pale, his eyes bloodshot. His voice was hoarse and broken. Jing Yu, I know everything. It was all a misunderstanding. He lunged at the car window, his fingers clawing at the glass. Everything is clear now. All good things are worth waiting for. Let's start over. I got out of the car with a cold face, glancing at him as if he were an idiot. Just as I was about to call him crazy, Lin Xinran jumped out. Sister. Don't blame Zai Hengage. Being able to be provoked just shows there were problems with your relationship to begin with. I'm helping you find problems before the wedding. You should thank me. Xie Shihan nodded to Lin Xinran, touched, and looked at me expectantly. I slowly walked towards them. A look of wild joy flashed across Xie Zihan's face. He shook off Lin Xinran and reached out to hug me. At the same time, he coldly glanced at Kwon Nanchuan. As if declaring victory, I stopped in front of Lin Xinran. I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. I couldn't stop once I started, and only stopped when my hand hurt. Lin Xinran's cheeks were red and swollen from the beating, and she looked at Xie Shihan aggrievedly. Zai Hengage. She hit me, but Xie Shihan seemed relieved. Jing Yu, did you vent your anger? You don't have to be jealous and bully Xinran in the future. I've never loved her. I only have you in my heart. As he spoke, he was about to hug me. Kwon Nanchuin had gotten out of the car at some point. He kicked Xie Shihan in the stomach. Don't touch my wife. I tugged on Hwan Nangsen's arm. Don't get angry for irrelevant people. Xie Shihan bent over, coughed a few times, and blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were bloodshot, and he roared at me, finally unable to bear it. Lin Jingyue, I'm vomiting blood. Can't you care about me a little? I rolled my eyes, completely failing to understand his thought process. Xie Shihan, how many times have I told you? We're over. Whether you vomit blood or die, it's none of my business. Xie Shihan froze in place. As if frozen, Lin Xinran climbed up, still wanting to jump around, but was held down by my bodyguard. I turned to look at her. And you. I was originally going to stop here. But you're too disgusting. Go back and tell your mistress mother and your ingrate father. Wait to go bankrupt and be chased by creditors, and live like a rat in the gutter for the rest of your life. After speaking, I took Hwan Nangsen's arm. Let's go. Don't delay getting our marriage certificate. Behind us came Xie Zihan's desperate roar, mixed with sobs. Lin Jingyue, don't go. I was wrong. I was really wrong. The voice faded into the distance, cut off by the closing car door. Completely disappeared. Ever since getting in the car, Hwan Nanchuin had been staring at me, a fire seeming to explode in the depths of his pupils. Light danced in his eyes. Wife, you defended me just now. He suddenly gripped the back of my neck and kissed me. The kiss was fierce and urgent, filled with a longing that had been suppressed for too long. After a long while, he finally let go, his forehead pressed against mine, his breathing heavy. Lin Jingyue, he said in a hoarse voice. I love you. When we went home, the stars were shining brightly. Kwon Nanchuin took my hand and walked towards the brightly lit castle. I looked back one last time, towards the south, in the direction of Hong Kong. From now on, my journey is the sea of stars, and my haven is this man beside me who is crazy for me, and the city full of lilacs he built for me.